Hello everyone, and welcome back. I hope you are all safe and well. This is the first video I've done in a while, and I thought it was important just to, do a video because I am looking to restart this whole process again. I know that I've said this in a couple of different posts that I've done, but I really am looking to do that, and I thought it was worth giving you a little bit of background as to what I'm doing at the moment and why it's been so stop-start over the last 6 or 7 months. So first of all, I must acknowledge my day-to-day life. So my daily life is really busy. I currently work 2 jobs, Monday to Friday. In the mornings before I start work, so sort of between the hours of 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm studying for my master's degree in my MBA. And then in the evenings, I just tend to just dissolve into a sofa and try to sleep and just slowly break down into nothingness. And that's my routine at the moment. So it has been incredibly hectic, and within that schedule, I just haven't found the time to really do more videos and content. I've continued to collect watches, I've continued to build up ideas for videos, but having that time for the execution has just been so hit and miss over this last sort of 6 or 7 months. But I really wanted to address that today. However, with certain things changing now in my life and things getting slightly easier as I move into next year and into 2023, I'm really trying to re-engage with this channel and really start up again. I've been having a look at the analytics. I've been having a look at the viewing numbers. The viewing numbers for the small amount of videos I have done, as rushed as they are and as unpolished as they are, have still done reasonably well. I'm still at the low end of subscribers, 176 subscribers. So if you can, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll start posting more as well. But I think the one thing that really got me motivated to begin with is that I've had a few videos now that have had way over 2,000 or 3,000 views, and for me, starting off, I was just thinking potentially a couple of hundred views on a video. So to see that much is really sort of motivated me to get back into it and really give this a go. But secondly, was the impressions on the channel. So according to YouTube analytics, it was around the 30,000 mark when it comes to impressions on the channel, which means that people are looking at the channel as well. And again, I can't thank you enough for that, because it's really sort of given me that motivation to sort of prioritize and really get something done. Either way, what I wanted to do today is something a little different, and to sort of restart this channel, I thought it would be good to basically do a small state of the collection. So it's not going to be a full state of collection, it's not all the watches that I own, but what I will be doing is giving you a list of my favourite watches at the moment. So I think they number at around the 7 or 8 watches, and for me, I'll go into each one and sort of describe to you why I like them and what's motivating me to get more of these watches as well moving forward. There are a couple of watches that I don't have in my collection that I'm sorely looking for, and I'll go into that as well. But I feel as if this is a great place to start off with, especially with some of the watches that I have, and I tend to be a bit of a shopper for deals. So I go around the authorized dealer market, I go around the grey market, and I also look at eBay as well in the second-hand market to see what I can pick up as good deals. So for me, especially with the watches that I get at the prices I get them, I'm happy to sort of search and find the best deals. Sometimes they're once in a lifetime deals, sometimes they're just a good deal that I see at the time that probably will come back up again at some point. But my overriding goal is to build that affordable collection and hopefully get some good deals on things. And I think one of the reasons for this list that you'll see coming on is not just the type of watches that I've got on here, because I do feel they follow a theme, and I think that's something else that I'll come back to, but in my opinion, what I actually think is all of these watches I've picked up for a good price and a good bargain, and that's motivated me to wear them even more as well. Ironically, the better the deal, the better the bargain I tend to get on a watch, not potentially how much I spend on it. It tends to see more wrist time as a result, because to me, it feels like I've made a great achievement in terms of getting something at a really good price. So for this list, I have a number of watches that I've chosen. I love them all, But for me, it tends to be a bargain. I tend to wear that a little bit longer, as I mentioned before. So the only thing that I would say with this list is I've tried not to put any particular order. However, the last watch on this list is definitely my favourite so far, and I continue to wear this one daily. So you can consider that to be the top of the list. However, the rest of them are sort of mixed in there, and they all get equal amounts of wrist time as well. So there's doesn't seem to be any competition or issues there for my time. But the first watch I'm going to talk about today on the list is actually a brand coming from Aliexpress. So as you know, I started off this channel with a love of Aliexpress watches. It helped me get into watch collecting, being able to have a look at different styles, to have a look at watches that potentially I wouldn't be able to afford or wouldn't want to spend a lot of cash on. And as a result, I was able to understand what style suits my wrist, what colours I can look at in combinations, and what type of watches I think suit me as a watch collector for a very low and reasonable price. And for that, I really sort of rate AliExpress. I don't think it's the best out there. I think that yes, you're getting cheap prices, but just cheap prices mean value for money. Possibly not, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If you want to get good value for money, there are different areas and different places that you can go. But as a collector, if you're just starting out in watch collecting and you're not sure even what to look at, what to appreciate, AliExpress, going down that rabbit hole is, in my opinion, is a good way to get an idea of what sort of style you like without spending a huge amount of money. But this little watch I bought whilst I was away from YouTube, and it's now really become a favourite of mine, and it is by far and away, apart from maybe one on this list, it's the cheapest watch I have in this top tier list, and it's a Baltany. So there are a couple of different channels that talk about Baltany. Gary at I Like Watches 1 and 2 has reviewed a couple of them, and he may have even reviewed this watch as well. But it is a recreation and in homage to the watches of the 20s to 40s, so the old military style field watches. Obviously it's much more advanced, but I just love this watch. It's absolutely amazing. It has this beautiful double dome sapphire crystal over the top of it. It has these lovely cathedral hands, and the markers are really precise. This watch seems to be really well made, and the small seconds hand I really like on it as well, in accordance with sort of the way that the style of this watch and how this used to look. It has a seagull movement inside. I have no issues with the seagull movement. Obviously it's not the best movement in the world, but it's not the worst, and it's from a brand that has been making movements since I'm not sure when. I think it's the 60s or the 50s. If you know, put it in the comments below, and again we'll discuss that then. But the watch itself is fantastic. It has this, I said before, double domed sapphire crystal. It has a screw down crown. I think it has 100 meters of water resistance, but I think it probably can do more with that screw down crown, and it has a screw on case back as well. The numerals are legible, understandable, and the lume on this watch, for the price that I paid, and I think I paid just over £100 for it, is absolutely phenomenal. It keeps glowing and it keeps glowing. The only thing that I changed on this watch is I took off the leather sort of NATO style strap that it came with, and I put it on this absolutely lovely sort of nylon field style watch, which I can wear with and without the sort of the strap over the top of it at the end. But I feel this gives it a really good military aesthetic. The watch itself is stainless steel on the case. It seems to be bead blasted, and again, bead blasted for this sort of price is pretty much unheard of, and it's one of the reasons why, again, I do look to AliExpress to get an idea for some styles that I'm not sure on, but I think I'll like, but I don't want to spend a huge amount of money on to begin with. So that's the first one on the list, is the Baltany Field Watch. If you want that one, there's a link in the description below. It's an affiliate link. Affiliate links are explained in the description, but I don't make any extra. I make some money from it. You don't pay any extra for the link. So there you go. Number 2 on this list now is a watch that, in a way, sort of began my want to start a watch channel and to share everything with you guys. and this is the Orient Triton. Now, with the Orient Triton, I've had a lot of ups and downs with this watch. In my opinion, it is a fantastic watch. It's a great first watch for a diver, somebody who wants a diver style, and it's really versatile in my opinion, especially the one that I got, which has the gold bezel, and it has the stainless steel sort of all brushed outer. So this watch has changed a little bit since I first had it on the channel. It originally came with a bracelet with push pins and a press clasp. I've now changed that, so it's on an aftermarket bracelet from Strapcode, and that cost me about $60. I think it was $60, $60 or $70 shipped over to the UK. Really quick shipping. I would thoroughly recommend Strapcode to anyone. I'm not affiliated with them. I just think they offer an incredible product that fits most popular watches. But once I put it onto the metal strap, I'd stopped wearing this watch for a while, just because I'd seen other things and I bought other things and I started wearing other things. I put it onto this Strapcode bracelet and wore the Orient Triton for the first time, and my God, it just changed how I felt about the watch. You know, for some reason it felt like it was more secure. It was an even better watch, and it sort of felt like it transformed it for me. But apart from that, the watch itself is fantastic. It has a stainless steel case. It has an aluminium bezel. It seems really hardy. It has a signed crown that's screwed down with 200 meters of water resistance. It has a date complication, and it has sapphire crystal across the front, something which for that price, you know, you won't be getting from the likes of Seiko. In my opinion, although you have Seiko watches, you've got the Seiko 5 range, and you've got the Turtle from Seiko. Epsom Group own Seiko, and they're part of the Seiko group, same as Orient. This one feels like the spiritual successor almost to the Seiko SKX. It has the same sort of style. It seems a little classier in a way, and I think that's just the way that Orient tend to do things. My one criticism of it, which once you see you can't unsee, is for me all the writing at the bottom. It makes it a little bit clunky because they've got a power reserve indicator at the top. Now, I like the power reserve indicator, but I feel as if potentially, even though it's an ISO rated diver, they could probably put some of the wording on the back of that watch. But I still wear it. I still wear it regularly. I've been to Greece for a month, which if you follow me on my Instagram page, again, link in the description, you have seen some pictures of me on the Greek island of Corfu wearing the watch, and I wore it in the sea. I'm quite an avid swimmer, so I was going and diving underneath and swimming around with that watch for hours on end. So the watch is really robust. I think it's almost bomb-proof. It was the first, I'd say, major watch I bought that really started this journey for me. No way on this earth I'll be getting rid of it. Absolutely fantastic watch, the Orient Triton. Couldn't recommend it enough. So, talking about divers watches, we'll move on to number 3, which is another divers watch. Again, when I first started out, pretty much every watch in my collection was a diver's watch, because I fell into that trap that most people do, which is looking at diver's watch. Men tend to have these big divers, and I continue to use these divers watches and wear them. And this one watch that I bought was a little classier, and I wore it and I fell in love with it straight away. And it's actually the watch on my wrist right now as I'm recording this video. And it's the Medo Ocean Star. This watch for me is incredible. There's actually some scratches on the bezel that you'll see in the video, and that's because I took it into the sea with me in Greece as well. I took 2 dive watches. I took the Orient Triton and the Medo Ocean Star, and I scratched this one on a rock. I was initially gutted about it, but I actually quite like it now. It seems to add to the character. But what attracted me to this watch is because I like the black face on a diver's watch, especially. For me, that's sort of my diver's watch, and I didn't really want to change that. However, I was thinking that a lot of my collection is very samey. I have a lot of dark and black dials. So what I really wanted to do with this Medo Ocean Star is have a look at something that will make it stand out a little bit. And this one is actually my favourite of the Medo Ocean Star range. So I think you've got a green one, a blue one, a black one, and I think you've got these 2-tone ones as well. And for me, I got this 2-tone one. So it's, black face, black aluminium bezel, as you can see. Lume's not amazing, but it is good. It's still okay. I didn't have any issues with it when I was out there, but I know that it's nowhere near as bright as Orient or the other diver's watch which is on this list, which I'll get to later. But one thing that really did stand out to me is the two-tone. The rose gold is so much more subtler. It has more of a vintage appeal to gold, if that makes sense. So it's not as standoffish, but it still looks, the part still looks quite nice. Yes, the watch sits quite flat, but I still feel as if it's a great sort of choice for a lot of people. I labeled it on the original video as the best diver's watch you've never heard of, the best Swiss diver you've never heard of, and actually it's the best Swiss diver from the Swatch Group that most people haven't heard of. It's an absolutely incredible watch. I'm a big fan of the day-date complication on this one. This was great for traveling in. If I had my time again, would I get this watch? I actually would still get it, but what I would probably do is see if I can get the GMT version of this one instead, because I found that this watch was a perfect traveler's watch because it's comfortable on wrist. It's got the screw down crown. Yes, it's a little big at 42mm, but there's an incredibly good diver's extension as well, and it's sort of like a ratcheting one, and that made it incredibly comfortable to wear traveling, especially in an airplane where everything sort of expands as well. So this watch, absolute keeper for me. I think it's a fantastic looking watch. I think it's a pretty watch, and I think it complements my skin tone, being sort of being mixed race myself. I think that it sort of really complements my skin tone. So if you get a chance to get the Mido automatic, if you're happy with a watch that has some lume but isn't amazing on lume, but does everything else really well, has a good ETA movement, and is part of the Swatch Group with a huge amount of history, I would thoroughly recommend getting the Mido Ocean Star. So after the Medo Ocean Star, I'm going to go back to what I would consider to be Garda watches. So go anywhere, do anything watches that you've heard a lot of on different channels on YouTube. So for me, the first one of these Garda watches, there's actually two on this list. Well, three if you include the Baltany, which I could include it as a field watch. It's a little bit too bead blasted, so you possibly couldn't wear it with a suit, but I think it's very versatile. But the first watch that I've got on this list is the Seiko SARY057. So when I began with this journey, I was actually looking for the Seiko SARB033. And in the UK, the prices for the Seiko SARB033 have skyrocketed. They're now, you could pick up a few for like, £300 or £400, which was, a pretty good bargain. But nowadays, I'm seeing them increasingly more and more at £600, £700, £800 for the black dial. And for me, I just thought, it's a lovely watch, but I don't want to spend that much on a model that's nice but potentially a bit outdated, has problems with the bracelet, X, Y, and Z. So for me, when I saw the Seiko SARY come up, and I paid an incredible £150 for it, so not much at all. It's got the sapphire crystal, it's got the 4R35 movement in the back, it's got a day-date complication, colour match date wheel as well, which is fantastic. And it was really comfortable on wrist. My only, bugbear with this Seiko is that, yet again, they have a press clasp, but I've changed that for an aftermarket one, which you can see on here, a cheap one off Aliexpress, but I think it, again, sort of makes the watch really comfortable to wear. This watch, again, boasts 100 meters of water resistance. The only downside is that the Dauphine hands, really lovely and nice as they are, there's no lume on them whatsoever, and I didn't really expect there to be lume anyway. I think that I've seen a couple of reviews beforehand that had, no lume on it, but in my opinion, I actually think it adds to the classiness of this watch, and I don't think I would actually use this watch as more of a sports watch anyway. It tends to feels a bit more dressy, even though it is technically a sports watch with that what's it called, with that steel bracelet and 100 meters of water resistance. But for me personally, I still see this as more of a dressier watch, and I do enjoy wearing it as well. And I think that it's a beautiful little piece from Seiko, and some commenters have sort of said this is almost like a baby Grand Seiko. And when you look at the specs, when you look at how much it is, but you look at the design of it as well, sometimes it's hard to disagree with them. So next on the list, we actually have the Bulova Lunar Pilot. This was a birthday present that my wife bought for me. It is by far and away one of my favorite watches of this year. And you know, it wasn't even picked up by me, it was my wife that picked it up for me. Has, you know, how could it not go on this list as a result? But I love this watch. You know, it's bead blasted throughout in a really sort of fine way. There's a little bit of polishing and brushing on the pushers. The pushers are nice and wide and unique. This watch has 50 meters of water resistance. It is a fantastic quartz module. I'm going to do a video on this at some point anyway, so you can get a bit more of an understanding of how good the quartz module is on this watch. But it has a date matched color wheel, sapphire crystal, like flat hat sapphire crystal that just protrudes over the top on the front of it. It is a bit bulky, but I'm not a small guy. I'm not a big guy by any of the imagination, but I'm not a small guy either. And it means that I can wear this watch pretty well on my wrist. What I opted to do, and this is a bit of a tip for anyone who wants to buy this watch but thinks potentially that their wrists are a bit too small for it, is you've got the two straps that tend to come with it unless you get the bracelet option. So the two straps, the first one is a leather strap that's quite puffy. It looks really nice, but and it feels quite nice, but it does sort of make it hang over the wrist a little more. The second one is like a NATO style strap, which makes it sit a little bit better and flush on wrist, but it's a 20mm lug width. And if you go onto eBay, and again, I'll see if I can find the links for this and put this in, I can't guarantee that I can, but you can find these astronaut style Velcro quick release leather style straps, and they're absolutely amazing. And they do two things. One, they help it sit incredibly flush on the wrist, so it can make this Bulova Lunar Pilot a fantastic watch for you to keep on, you know, 24/7. And also it allows you to have that interesting display. It's not really a display case back, but the inscription on the back of the case of the watch, which talks about where the Apollo 15 landed, when the mission was, and it also has the coordinates as well as of where they landed on the moon too. So you can actually take it off and have a look at that little bit of horological history as well, which you can't necessarily do with the NATO strap. But this watch was fantastic. It's I wear this one really regularly, especially as a set and go piece, if I just want a nice quartz watch that I can wear and not think about having to set the date or time. And I think it's accurate to, you know, something ridiculous like 2 or 3 seconds in a year or something like that. But again, a video is coming on this one, and I can't wait to show you the Bulova Lunar Pilot. The next one on the list is Smith's. It's a watch by Smith's. Now, this one is another gift from my wife, and it's actually my favourite watch that she's ever bought me. I'm not sure how much it cost her, but it was new old stock, and the new old stock watch itself is in absolute perfect condition, mint condition. I have messed around with it in a couple of ways to try and make it a little better for me. So I've got this aftermarket strap on it, and it's a leather NATO style strap. Again, it is 16mm. I think I had it shipped in from America, but it's got gold. It's got gold sort of buckles and a couple of gold sort of widgets, I guess. I'm not sure what the word is, but they hold the watch in really well and keep it in place. And the case itself is like this beautiful sort of subtle gold colour. On the face of the watch is 12, 3, 6 and 9. That is a lovely piece of domed crystal. It's acrylic crystal, so Polywatch there will be your friend. This watch still keeps pretty good time. I still wear it quite regularly as well, and for me this is definitely my, you know, cocktail dinner, you know, sort of really interesting watch to wear. It really has it sort of really comes off in the light, and it plays with the light as well. It just bounces off it. I think it's an absolutely incredible watch. It's my favorite watch that my wife has ever bought for me, and I have to include it on this list. It's just absolutely gorgeous. I think you'll agree. It's just something a little different, and for me, something a little different is always very, very, very much appreciated. So after that one, we're going to get into another quartz watch, and it's the only other quartz watch on this list. And how could it not be a Casio? So I have, I think, about 5 or 6 Casio watches. And out of those 5 or 6 Casio watches, most of them are digital watches. In fact, I think all but one are digital watches, but we'll have a look and see when I do a proper state of the collection. But the Casio that I've got here, the DW500, this is a version of it that I saw and I just absolutely loved. It was on sale as well, as I usually buy my things on sale. I think this was like £40 or something like that. But what really attracted me to it is having a lot of Casio watches anyway. I didn't want the black resin band, I wanted something different, and this grey sort of stealth one adds a little bit of individuality to it. But I wanted to see what the negative screen would look like as well, and I've taken this watch with me. This was one of my holiday watches as well. I took 4 watches away with me to Corfu, and this watch was perfectly legible the entire time I was out there. If the sun was really bright, I could still see the time. If the sun wasn't out and it was dark, I could still see the time. The light on this watch was absolutely fantastic. 200 meters of water resistance, so it's really versatile, and it just looks the part. It looks almost military in a way, and I just think this watch was absolutely amazing. I love the little flashes of red in it as well, which sort of give it a bit more of a, almost like a sinister look as well. And yeah, there's not really much else I can say about this watch. I just think it's fantastic. It wears really well, as most Casio G-Shocks do, and it's incredibly light. And it's my favourite digital watch that I wear, and I wear this one quite regularly, especially when I'm exercising. So moving on from a absolutely state-of-the-art watch to one that, again, is almost like a retro reissue. You can see a little bit of a theme going on, can't you? This watch is the Hamilton Khaki Field. So this is the penultimate watch in the list. Again, another Swatch Group watch, another Swiss-made watch. 80-hour power reserve, exactly the same parameters as the Medo Ocean Star, exactly the same movement, except for this one is just has a date complication, doesn't have a day-date complication, and the colour wheel is not matched. But I think it still works really well because of the indices all being in white. This is probably on the dressier style of the field watch, so because it's got the polished bezel, I think that makes a bit of an extra for it, which I think is pretty good. I also really like the brushing of the watch as well. As you can see, when I originally reviewed this watch, I had this on the leather band. Again, I upgraded to a strap code bracelet on this one. If I had my time again, I'd probably fork the extra 50, 60 quid as it is now. It was like £100 back then to actually get the metal bracelet, which is why I opted not to have it. But putting it on the metal bracelet really transformed it again for me, really made it into a proper Garda watch. And this is the only real Garda watch I have in my collection, next to a couple of Seikos that I've got in the rotation. But this one, it's got the sapphire crystal, no anti-reflective coating, but we can forgive it for that. Fantastic ETA movement with 80 hours power reserve, push-pull crown, 100 meters of water resistance, and I'm such a fan of just the little dash of red in the second hand that offsets all of the white and all of the black. It makes it a really interesting watch and a great watch to sort of wear. This could be a good sort of shirt and tie watch for me if I'm not wearing the Seiko SARY. In fact, it often does become a really good sort of shirt and tie watch that I can wear, that I can slip under the cuff because of how incredibly thin it is and how well it wears. So that's all of my watches bar one that I wanted to show you today. All of them have their merits. All of them are, in my opinion, beautiful watches that I will continue to wear and will wear for a very long time. But there can only be one watch that would really be at the top of the list today, and it's the one that typically I've spent the most money on, but it's had the most wrist time, and it was a grail watch of mine anyway. I got it for an absolutely fantastic steal of a price. The man who was selling this watch, he'd only worn it a handful of times, realized it didn't quite work for him and his wrist, and wanted to sort of get rid of it and upgrade to a different watch. So I managed to get this for an incredibly good price. But as you've probably seen from the images, it is the Tudor Black Bay. So I'll say that again, the Tudor Black Bay. And for me, this is just an absolutely insanely good watch. It's simple, but it's so elegant. It harks back to an incredible design. I'm a massive fan of the fact that it sort of looks like a lot of the original Submariners of old. I'm not a fan of the new Submariners. I don't think I would get a new Submariner anyway, but for me, I love this vintage feel. I think that, you know, it's well worth the money. So this is the Tudor Black Bay with the in-house movement. It's the 41mm version, not the 39mm. It does make it a little thick, but I think the thickness actually works to my wrist's advantage. Screw down crown, signed crown with the Tudor stamp. Obviously, you've got the rose gold indices, which sort of harps back for me for some of the designs I like the Medo Ocean Star has the rose gold. The loom on this watch is incredible, just as good as the Orient Triton, if not slightly better. It's a chronometer, officially certified. Has the the sterile case back, and this one it has a little bit of printing on it, and it has obviously the a good milled clasp, and it does sit quite nicely on wrist. My only bugbear with this watch is the bracelet is good, but it's not brilliant in my opinion. I actually think that the Medo Ocean Star bracelet, which retails at around just under £1,000, just over I think $1,100, I think that the bracelet for that is superior to this one. However, what I will say is it doesn't matter, because it's all about emotion for me. You know, this is an incredible looking watch. It has 70-hour power reserve. It's an in-house Tudor / Rolex movement, and it's just one of these watches that I can just see myself wearing long term until the day that I die, and potentially hand down to my kids as an inheritance watch. But this was my real big spend of 2022 so far. I might get something else. I might get some other watches. Who am I kidding? I am going to be getting some other watches. It's just guaranteed at this point. It's become an obsession. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about the other watches that I feel are missing from my collection. As I mentioned before, I've not done a full state of the collection, but I think it gives you an idea of the regular watches that are in my rotation and what I wear and why I wear them. So let's talk about the watches that I don't have in my rotation, the watches that potentially I'm lusting after. What watches are they? How are they going to suit me moving forward? Well, I think first of all, one watch which is really missing from the collection is a automatic chronograph watch. I really desperately want one, but I'm so picky when it comes to how it looks. I don't want something that's too thick, but I also want something that has maybe a retro feel to it. As you can tell with my watches, I enjoy the retro look of watches. So for me, potentially the pick that might be on my list would be the Hamilton Intramatic, the chronograph. I think that's a really good start point for that. I'm not really sure what else I could look at. There is the Tissot, the new Tissot PRX chrono, which again I think is a fantastic looking watch. However, I feel that might be a bit too big even for my wrists, but I'll have to try one on at an AD and see how I feel about that. And then there are a couple of Tag Heuers. I know that some people hate Tag Heuers, they'd spit on the name, but some of the Carrera line I quite like. And so, you know, if I saw one of those at a good price towards the end of this year, potentially that would be the chronograph that I could get. That would be an automatic chrono. And then the last addition to this collection, which I feel is really warranted, is a GMT. I don't have a GMT watch in the collection. There's been a couple of chances that I've had to get some, and I've decided not to get it last minute. The GMT watch is actually something that I've had more thought about, and I feel there's more options readily available. There are, offerings from Christopher Ward, for example, which they have some incredible GMT watches. Even the likes of Seiko have the Sharp Edge GMT. Sort of wary whether to get it or not. I think that it looks incredible. I think it's almost like another Grand Seiko miniature or baby Grand Seiko, but the QC issues with Seiko just sort of leave that hesitation as to try it. It might be one of those ones that I have to go into an AD in the UK and just try a couple on and just, you know, sort of have a look at the alignment, see if I really like it. And then in addition to that, you've got other brands that will do GMTs, from Medo, which I alluded to before with the Medo Ocean Star, right the way through to other members of the Swatch Group, and even other independents too, like Oris, for example. So that would be, I guess, the next two watches on the list if I was to get them at some point. Maybe I'll get them this year, maybe I'll get them next year. But one thing I will do is, as you can see, I think out of all of those watches that I've shown you today, I think it's just the Orient Triton, the Mido, the Hamilton, and if I'm missing one, you'll have to forgive me because I'm doing this on the fly. But I think those are the three watches out of those 8 that I've reviewed. In addition to that, I've got, you know, half a dozen Seiko watches that are just waiting to come into the line, and a few more as well that I've seen, that I've bought and that I've got in the collection, that again are sort of begging for review. So there's plenty of content to come along. There's a full state of the collection to come as well. There's a lot that's going to be happening from now until 2023, and then from there it's going to be the push to get as many people watching the channel as possible. But guys, I want to thank you for your time today. This is a bit of a longer video, but I want to do it to reintroduce myself back into the fold. Thank you for your time. Thank you for any comments that you leave below. Thank you for just watching the videos and you know, keeping me motivated. But all of you guys, you stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.